أعزائي الطلاب، تعتبر فعالية رمي الرمح من فعاليات الساحة والميدان. بالنسبة للرمح، وزنه للرجال 800 جرام، والطول يبلغ من 260 ل 270. أما للسيدات فوزنه 600 جرام، وطوله من 220 ل 230. بالنسبة للرمح كرمح، يتكون من 3 أجزاء اللي هم الرأس الرمح وهو الجزء المدبب، والجسم جسم الرمح، وحبل المقبض.
These javelin continuous rhythm approaches are effectively working on that exact thing. The focus is our rhythm here. We want to have good quality build of our rhythm throughout the entire approach. The other thing that we want to look for is a nice transition into our crossover steps. Running continuous
javelin overhead. Over grasp, wide to start with. If it's a little tight, take it wider until you're warmed up. Slowly over, right down, and there's a sticking point, which you will find, the tightest point, just overhead. Good, just there. Pretty important that you have a loose shoulder to throw, otherwise the arm comes through very early and low. Let's have a look at common mistakes then. The first one is people have it too narrow to start with and then have to bend the elbows to take it over. Great. And the second one is ridiculously wide, so they don't actually feel any stretch at all. So there's not a lot happening there. Okay, and show us the correct version again. Lovely. Great. Next specific exercise is looks like canoeing actually. Again, one you're familiar with. Taking the javelin overhead in a rhythm. So wide grip to start. Take it over on one side, then the other side comes over. Keeping the arms straight, getting a nice rhythm. Again, you'll feel it on the shoulders, keeping that arm out straight as you do it. And the other way. Good. And stop. We'll put a common error in, which is again, people holding it too narrow and then for the elbows have to bend while they're doing it. It looks a bit ungainly, but it doesn't really have much effect. And go back to a good one, arms straight. A comfortable distance, but one that you do feel that there's a stretch on the shoulder to really loosen up, and rest. Great. This next exercise is very specific for javelin. Holding the javelin shaft while the javelin is stuck in the ground, holding it high, and taking your body, ducking underneath the javelin to stretch under the arm to start with, then rotating your shoulder outwards so it comes down to the side, and keeping the same pressure on all the time and working around the shoulder joint to get really, really loose. Increase the flexibility so you can increase the range through which you can apply force for the javelin. Okay, great. Just to warm your shoulder up.
Is crucial, as a javelin thrown incorrectly will present a large surface area to oncoming air and will quickly stall and fall prematurely to the ground. The javelin needs to be held with a firm grip to ensure that all the power generated in the run-up is transferred to the javelin. All javelins have a binding which is located in the midsection of the implement. The javelin must lie along the length of the hand alongside the base of the thumb, so that it is almost parallel to the forearm. There are several grip variations used by javelin throwers, and the athlete must use the grip that is most comfortable for them. Most throwers will use one of the following grips.
There are three main grips. There is a V grip, which is a fork grip with the inside of the first finger and second finger squeezing against the binding. There's the second finger and thumb with the first finger going up the shaft, and it's the second finger and thumb that actually form the grip and the pull. But the one that's probably the simplest to coach, if someone hasn't thrown before, is the one that simply has the first finger and thumb behind the binding so it can't slip. And the reason and the way that you could teach that actually is to stick the javelin in the ground, slide the fingers down, first finger and thumb, and pick the javelin up. And that's the simplest of all the grips. The javelin doesn't slip.
The javelin is a very difficult object to hold due to its shape and length. Potential throwers first need to learn to control the javelin. To achieve this, ask the athlete to stand with feet about 1 metre apart and with 1 foot forward, with the javelin held above the head with a firm grip and pointed at a shallow angle to the ground. The athlete throws the javelin about 4 to 5 metres in front of their forward foot. The javelin point should stick in the ground. The elbow of the throwing arm should be kept as close as possible to the javelin. This should eliminate a bowling action and a dropped elbow. Good performance in this drill will see the javelin point regularly sticking in the ground and the javelin staying in the same alignment as the throwing direction. When the athlete can demonstrate control of the javelin, they can progress to the next stages, such as standing and run-up throws. To commence the standing throw, the javelin is drawn to a full arm's length, and the arm should be firm and strong but not rigid. The throwing hand should be just above shoulder height, with the palm held upwards and the javelin parallel to the ground. The feet should be approximately 1 metre apart, with the rear leg slightly flexed and the weight on the ball of the foot. The forward leg should be straight, with the heel in contact with the ground. Once the athlete is competent with the standing throw, they should then progress to the 3-stride approach. For this drill, the athlete should stand 4 stride lengths from the foul line, with both feet together at 2 o'clock. The javelin should be fully withdrawn, with the palm facing up and the elbow alongside the javelin. The movement is commenced by the left foot striding forward. The right leg then takes a long, high stride in front of the left leg, which moves the athlete into the throwing position. This is often referred to as the crossover stride or crossover step. The weight of the thrower should now be positioned over the right leg, in the same position as for the standing throw. The left foot is then brought forward to achieve the basic throwing or delivery position. This is done on flat feet rather than on the toes. The thrower pushes from the back leg and at the same time drives the hips forward and up. A cue for this sequence is left, big stride, throw. As the athlete pulls through with the javelin, the left leg should straighten and remain in contact with the ground, acting as a pivot point for the thrower until the javelin is released. Once the 3-stride throw is established and refined, the athlete should then progress to the 5-stride approach. The 5-stride approach is just 2 extra running steps added to the 3-stride approach.
Now we'll build the run up from a 3-stride approach to a 5-stride.
You're pointing it this way, it's not held this way, down like this, nice in that valley of the hand you can see, and then just wrap your hand right around it. Fingers around here, just nice support there. And that's the grip. Now you're probably asking yourselves about the size of the javelin. Well, this really depends on the gender and your age. And as you can see from the javelins behind me, there's a number of different javelins that can be used in an event. So there's the primary. So we've got the Finnish grip and the American grip. Let's move on to the power position. Okay, let's have a look at the proper power position in the javelin throw. So we're just going to come up with a basic standing throw. But it's really important to start from the ground up or the surface up. And so what I'm going to do is I'll just focus in on the feet for a moment, and then we'll move up to the javelin itself in the upper body. How do I position my feet in the javelin event? You can see my feet are close together, and this is the best way to illustrate the proper foot position. Let's take my left foot now, and I'm going to just drop it back, and it's about half the distance of the length of my foot. I'm going to take my right foot, and I'm going to drop it back here. I'm going to move my left foot forward towards the throwing sector. You can see they're offset by the line indicated on the screen. Why do we want to do that? Well, it's quite simply, it allows us to make that turn in the javelin so that we can start from the ground or the surface using my right turn here. I'm going to turn my foot, my knee, in the direction of the throwing sector. you notice that my left foot's in a bracing, blocking position. This is very standard when we're talking about the javelin event. Now that we know how to position our feet on the surface, let's take that lower body and connect it to the core, and then of course the upper body. So what we want you to do now is, now that you have the proper grip, we would like you to extend the javelin nice and straight like this. Take your feet in that offset position and just turn them to 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. Just a slight turn. Now, what this allows us to do is to make that move to turn to the throwing sector. Now, I just want to make it really clear that when you're holding the javelin, to hold it parallel to the surface below. It's not orientated this way. Keep it nice and straight. You're saying, well, coach, how do I throw it in the sky? Well, I'll show you. It's going to be made really quite clear as we move along here. Now, once we have that javelin nice parallel to the surface, you can see it's nice and straight here. It's not angled this way. This is the position we want. Take the left arm. I always have thumb down. And make sure that your arm is fully extended. The position of the head of the javelin should be close to you so that you have a nice orientation, nice straight linear orientation to the throwing sector. So once you have that, what you're going to do is just move your weight to the back leg. So you can see this. So I could literally take my left foot off the surface. What this is going to allow us to do is, now you see that the javelin has changed position. It's now in the same power position, but this is my angle of attack. A lot of young people love doing this. No, don't do that. Bring it here, and this is your angle.